I stopped my son's wedding. 30 seconds before he said I do. He looked at me like I was a monster. He told me I was dead to him. He thought I was destroying his future. He didn't realize I was saving his life from the woman standing next to him. She wasn't a bride. She was a predator. And I don't just build things. I demolish them too. The sunlight streaming through the stained glass windows felt too bright, too cheerful. It cast colored patterns on the stone floor of the old church, red and blue hues dancing over the polished wood of the pews. It felt wrong. The smell of lilies was overwhelming, sweet, heavy. It made me sick. I stood near the front, my back ramrod straight, a habit drilled into me during my years in the military that I never managed to shake. I tugged at the stiff collar of my rented tuxedo. It choked me. I'm Robert. I own a small contracting business. I'm a man used to work boots and the smell of sawdust, not patent leather shoes, and this suffocating atmosphere. This whole day felt like a facade, a beautifully constructed lie, and I felt a knot tightening in my chest, a cold dread that wouldn't go away. My son, Ethan, stood at the altar. He looked sharp, taller, somehow, in his tailored suit. I watched him shift his weight from foot to foot. A nervous energy radiated from him. He was waiting for Chloe. Ethan is a good man, the kind of man you'd want your daughter to marry. Kind, steady, fiercely loyal. He also trusted easily. He saw the world in black and white, good and bad. He hadn't seen the shades of gray I had, the darkness that could hide behind a smiling face. Maybe that was my fault. Maybe I had protected him too much. And now, I worried that protection was about to cost him everything. If you're listening to this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It helps to know I'm not alone in this crazy world. When Ethan met Chloe 8 months ago, he fell instantly, completely in love. It was a whirlwind romance, the kind you see in movies. He was convinced she was the one within weeks, and I understood why. She was beautiful. That was the first thing everyone noticed. She had a dazzling smile, bright and warm way of listening that made you feel like the most important person in the room. She was charming, sophisticated. She seemed to adore Ethan. She was perfect. And that's exactly what bothered me. Perfection isn't real. It's a polished surface hiding rotten wood. And I had a feeling the wood underneath Chloe was very rotten indeed. My wife Linda was completely captivated by her from day one. Chloe slipped into our lives seamlessly, like a missing puzzle piece we didn't know was missing. She was attentive, always helping Linda in the kitchen, always asking me about my construction projects, remembering details about my clients that even I forgot. It was too smooth, too easy. Maybe it happened too fast. That was the thought I kept pushing away, the whisper in the back of my mind that said something was off. My instincts screamed at me, the instincts that kept me alive overseas. They told me something was very wrong, but I ignored them. I wanted Ethan to be happy. I told myself I was just a cynical old soldier. I was dead wrong. There were little things that didn't add up. The way she avoided talking about her past, claiming it was too painful. Her parents, she said, had died when she was young. She had no other family. It was a tragic story, one that immediately garnered sympathy and stopped any further questions. It was convenient. Too convenient. I remember a barbecue we hosted last month. Ethan's childhood friend, Sarah, was there. Sarah is sharp, intuitive. She watched Chloe all night. Not with admiration, but with suspicion. Later, Sarah pulled me aside near the grill. The smell of charcoal filled the air. "Robert, I don't know," Sarah whispered, twisting her napkin. Her eyes darted towards Chloe, who was charming Linda by the punch bowl. "It just feels fast, and she's too polished. No flaws, no messy history. It's weird." I brushed her off, told her she was being paranoid. "Ethan loves her, Sarah. That's all that matters." Sarah looked unconvinced. "Just be careful, Robert. Sometimes the brightest smiles hide the sharpest teeth." I regret ignoring her now. I regret ignoring the warning signs. I regret everything. The music swelled, a string quartet playing the traditional wedding march. The heavy oak doors at the back of the church opened. A collective gasp went through the congregation. There she was, Chloe. She looked stunning, Her dress was a cascade of white lace that seemed to shimmer in the colored light from the windows. She moved gracefully down the aisle, her veil obscuring her face slightly, but I could see her radiant smile. Ethan's face lit up. He looked completely, hopelessly in love. The knot in my stomach tightened into a steel cable. This dream felt like a trap, and it was about to snap shut. Linda squeezed my arm, her eyes already misting over. "Isn't she beautiful, Robert?" she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Beautiful," I agreed. The word felt heavy, like a stone in my mouth. This was it, the beginning of their new life, the moment all parents dream of. But for me, it felt like watching a car crash in slow motion. I couldn't look away, and I couldn't stop it. Or so I thought. That's when my phone vibrated in my pocket. I ignored it. I had silenced the ringer, but the vibration was loud in the quiet church. The timing was terrible. Who would call now? It vibrated again. And again. Persistent. Insistent. A familiar feeling crawled up my spine. A cold dread. It was the same instinct I used to have overseas. The fear that told you an ambush was imminent. The hairs on the back of your neck standing up before the first shot was fired. This wasn't a casual call. This was an alarm bell, and it was screaming danger. "I'll be right back," I whispered to Linda. She looked confused, slightly annoyed by the interruption, but I slipped out of the pew and walked quickly toward the church vestibule. I needed to get out of the sanctuary before this feeling overwhelmed me. I needed air. I needed quiet. As I passed the back doors, I glanced outside. A black sedan was parked near the exit. Engine running. Strange. I filed it away. A detail that didn't fit the picture. The air in the vestibule was cooler, quieter. The heavy doors muffling the sound of the organ. I pulled the phone out. The screen flashed. Unnamed number. My thumb hovered over the green accept button. I hesitated. I could ignore it. I could let whatever this was wait until after the ceremony, but the instinct, the dread, was too strong to ignore. I had to answer. I pressed the button. "Hello?" My voice sounded strange. "Tight. Is this Robert? Ethan's father?" The voice on the other end was male, rushed, tight with anxiety. I could hear traffic in the background. He was on the move. "Yes, this is Robert. Who is this? My son is getting married right now. This is not a good time." I was about to hang up, but his next words stopped me cold. "You have to stop this wedding," the man commanded. His voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "Stop it immediately." I recoiled, stunned by the audacity, the sheer craziness of the demand. I felt a surge of anger. Was this some kind of sick joke? A cruel prank on the happiest day of my son's life? "Stop the wedding." "Are you out of your mind? Why on earth would I do that?" I hissed into the phone, keeping my voice low but my tone sharp. I was ready to tear into him, but then he said her name. There was a pause, a sharp intake of breath on the other end. "Because you need to know something about the bride, about Chloe." I leaned against the cold stone wall. My hand tightened around the phone. The vague unease I had felt earlier crystallized into something sharp and terrifying. "What are you talking about? Who are you?" I demanded. My heart hammered against my ribs. I didn't want to hear this, but I had to. "My name is Michael," the voice insisted. "And I'm telling you that the woman your son is about to marry is a predator. She is dangerous." He paused, took a deep breath. "She is not Chloe Smith." My blood ran cold. The world seemed to slow down. The sounds of the wedding fading into a distant hum. "Not Chloe Smith? What do you mean? Her name is Victoria. She changes it constantly. She finds good, trusting men like Ethan. She targets them, marries them quickly." He spat the next words out. "Drains their bank accounts, ruins their credit, and disappears. She's a professional con artist, Robert, and she's very, very good at what she does." I wanted to hang up. I wanted to believe this was a lie, some elaborate scheme by a jealous ex-boyfriend trying to cause trouble. But Michael's voice held a raw desperation, a certainty that terrified me. He sounded like a man who had seen the abyss and was trying to pull me back from the edge. "You're lying," I said, my voice trembling, trying to convince myself as much as him. Chloe is a wonderful woman. She loves my son. I've seen it. I thought of her smile, her kindness. It couldn't be fake. It just couldn't. That's exactly what she wants you to believe, Michael countered desperately. That's her talent. She mirrors what you want to see. He started talking faster. Listen to me. I was engaged to her 3 years ago. She called herself Emma. She took everything I had. My savings, my business, my dignity. His voice cracked. By the time I realized what was happening, she was gone. I've been tracking her ever since, trying to warn the next guy before it's too late. I almost missed this one. She moves fast. He was breathing hard now. The sound ragged through the phone. She targets men with stable families. Men who are eager to settle down. Men with assets. She knew exactly what she was doing when she met Ethan. He knew exactly what kind of man my son was. I closed my eyes, trying to process the information. It felt impossible, surreal. I thought back to the last 8 months. Chloe's perfect demeanor, her convenient lack of family, her eagerness to combine finances as soon as they were engaged. It all started to click into place, the pieces of the puzzle forming a horrifying picture. The perfection wasn't a mistake. It was a strategy, but I needed more than feelings. I needed facts. I need proof, I demanded, my military training kicking in. I needed actionable intelligence. I couldn't act on emotion alone. If you expect me to destroy my son's wedding day, you better have proof. Solid proof. I couldn't ruin Ethan's life based on a phone call. I needed evidence. Check your messages, Michael said instantly. I'm sending you a link. It's a private database I compiled with other victims. I've been gathering evidence for years. His voice was urgent. There are photos, police reports, financial records. Everything. Look at the picture from 2022, Michael continued. The one from Seattle. Look closely, Robert, and then you'll understand. A message notification popped up on my screen. I opened the link. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely navigate the page. The connection was slow in the old church. The loading bar crawled across the screen. Every second felt like an eternity. Ethan was moments away from saying, I do, moments away from binding himself to a monster. I was running out of time. Finally, the page loaded. I found the Seattle entry. It was a news article about a fraud case. A man named David had been financially ruined. His family business bankrupted, and there, in a blurry security camera photo accompanying the article, was the perpetrator. It was Chloe. She had slightly darker hair. The photo was grainy,
taken from a distance.
But the eyes, the shape of her face, the way she held herself, it was unmistakably her. My stomach dropped. The world tilted on its axis. I felt sick. A wave of nausea washed over me. The woman in the white dress. The perfect bride. She was a lie. Do you see it? Michael asked urgently. That's her, Robert. That's the woman who is about to promise to love and cherish her son while planning to destroy him. His words echoed in the empty vestibule. She is a monster, dressed in white. I looked back through the glass doors into the church. Ethan and Chloe were holding hands, facing the minister. They were about to exchange vows. The minister was speaking, his voice gentle, talking about the sanctity of marriage, the commitment of two souls. It was a trap, beautifully constructed, designed to ensnare my son. I have to go, I said. My voice choked. I have to stop this. I hung up the phone. I stared at the scene inside. It looked like a fairy tale. But I knew now that the princess was the dragon, and she was about to devour my son. I took a deep breath. This was going to hurt. It was going to hurt everyone, but I had no choice. I pushed the heavy oak doors open. The sound echoed through the silent church, a loud crack that signaled the breaking of the peace. All heads turned toward me. Linda's house was pale with confusion and alarm. Ethan looked annoyed, then concerned. His brow furrowed as he saw the expression on my face, the face of a man walking into battle. And then there was Chloe. Her eyes met mine. For a fraction of a second, her radiant smile flickered. It was almost imperceptible. a micro-expression of surprise. Then calculation. In that instant, I didn't see the loving bride. I saw the woman from the security footage. Cold, calculating, dangerous. She knew I knew. The game had changed. I started walking down the aisle. My footsteps felt heavy, each one a drumbeat leading to an explosion. I felt the eyes of every guest on me. Their judgment, their confusion, but I didn't care. I only cared about Ethan. "Robert, what are you doing?" Linda hissed from the pew, her voice trembling with embarrassment. I ignored her. I kept my eyes locked on Ethan. I had to reach him before he said the words that would legally bind him to this predator. The aisle felt a mile long. The scent of lilies was suffocating. When I reached the altar, the minister stopped speaking, his mouth hanging open in shock. The silence in the church was absolute, suffocating. "Dad? What's wrong? Are you okay?" Ethan asked, his voice tight with alarm. He took a step towards me, concern etched on his face. He still didn't understand. He still thought I was the problem. I took a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of lilies, an impending disaster. I looked at his face so open, so trusting. My heart broke for what I was about to do. I had to shatter his world to save him. "This wedding cannot continue," I said. My voice was louder and steadier than I expected. It was the voice I used to command troops, a voice that left no room for argument. Chaos erupted. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the congregation. The fairy tale shattered into a million pieces. Linda rushed to my side, her face flushed with humiliation. "Robert, have you lost your mind? Stop this immediately," she cried. She grabbed my arm, trying to pull me back. I stood firm. I wouldn't budge. This was a battle I couldn't afford to lose. Ethan stepped forward, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "Dad, what are you doing? This is my wedding." His voice cracked. "You are humiliating me in front of everyone." He was furious. He didn't see the danger. He only saw the disruption. Chloe, ever the performer, looked devastated. Tears instantly welled in her eyes, perfect crystal tears that streamed down her face. She swayed slightly, looking faint. Ethan reached out to steady her. He put a protective arm around her. He glared at me, like I was the enemy. The villain destroying his happiness. He was protecting the wolf from the sheepdog. "Why?" she whispered, her voice trembling with manufactured emotion. "Why are you doing this to me, Robert? I thought you loved me. I thought we were family." I looked at her. I really looked at her. I felt a surge of rage. This woman was trying to destroy my family. She was using my son's love as a weapon. The audacity, the cruelty, it was staggering. "I know who you are," I said, my voice low and dangerous. Or should I say, "I know who you aren't." Chloe's eyes widened, a flicker of fear, but she quickly recovered. She buried her face in Ethan's shoulder, sobbing uncontrollably. "I don't understand," she cried. "He's scaring me, Ethan. Make him stop." She was good, very good. Just then, the wedding planner rushed up, a sharp-looking woman in a headset. "Mr. Peterson, you need to return to your seat immediately," she commanded, trying to assert control. "You are disrupting the ceremony." I ignored her. I focused entirely on Ethan. "Ethan, son, I need to talk to you. Now, in private." The wedding planner reached for my arm, trying to physically remove me from the altar. She hesitated, her hand outstretched, realizing the intensity of the situation. The air crackled with tension. My military reflexes took over. I yanked my arm away. "Don't touch me," I warned, my voice dangerously low. She stepped back, startled. The threat of being dragged out of my own son's wedding hung in the air. The stakes were impossibly high. But I wasn't backing down. "No!" Ethan shouted, his voice raw with emotion. "I am not going anywhere. I am marrying the woman I love." He stood tall, defiant. "You need to apologize to her right now, or get out." Ethan's loyalty was absolute. He shielded Chloe. He chose her over me. I realized I couldn't reason with him here, not in front of everyone. Not while he was still under her spell. "We need to step aside," I insisted. I tried to pull him toward a small side room off the altar. The vestry. Ethan, please. Trust me. Just give me 5 minutes. That's all I ask. I pleaded with him, begging him to listen. Ethan's jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. He looked at Chloe, then back at me. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Get off me, Ethan shouted. He shoved me back, hard. The physical rejection stung more than any words could. It felt like a punch to the gut. My own son, physically rejecting me on his wedding day. The chasm between us widened, the emotional distance suddenly vast and terrifying. I had never felt so alone. Robert, stop this, Linda pleaded, tears streaming down her face. You're causing a scene. Whatever it is, it can wait until later. She was frantic, caught between her love for Ethan and her trust in me. She saw the intensity in my eyes, but the situation was so unbelievable. She couldn't process it. She chose denial. I think it's best if we take a short intermission, the minister announced, his voice shaking slightly. The crowd murmured louder. The situation was spinning out of control. I knew I had one last chance. I had to move fast. I grabbed both Ethan and Chloe by the arm, my grip firm, unrelenting. You two, with me. Now. Chloe resisted, crying harder, trying to pull away. No, I don't want to go with him. He's hurting me. She played the victim perfectly. You're coming, I said, my voice cold and hard. I pulled them forcefully into the side room. Linda followed. She shut the door behind us. The sounds of the confused and angry guests were muffled. We were locked in together. The truth, the lies, and the wreckage of our family. The real battle was about to begin. The room was small, cluttered with choir robes and hymnals. The air was thick with tension, the silence heavy and oppressive. Ethan ripped his arm away from me. His fists clenched at his sides. Explain yourself, Dad, he demanded, his voice shaking with rage. Tess, and this better be good, because right now I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this. The words hit me hard. Forgiveness felt very far away. The ultimatum hung in the air. My relationship with my son was on the line. I turned to Chloe. Who are you? Really? The truth this time, she sniffled, wiping her eyes delicately, careful not to smudge her makeup. The performance continued. I'm Chloe Smith, the woman your son loves. She looked at me with wounded eyes. I don't know why you're doing this, Robert. I thought we were family. Stop the act, I snapped. My patience gone. I know about Seattle. I know about David. I threw the names out like grenades. And Emma, and Victoria. Chloe froze. The tears stopped instantly. Her face hardened, but only for a moment. She quickly masked the slip. But it was too late. I saw it. The mask cracked. The monster peeked out. Ethan looked between us, bewildered, confused. Seattle? Emma? What is he talking about? Chloe. He searched her face, desperate for an explanation. Who are these people? He needed her to deny it. He needed this to be a mistake. She looked at Ethan, her expression softening again, turning back into the victim, the damsel in distress. I don't know, baby. He's delusional. She played the insanity card. Maybe the stress of the wedding. Maybe he's having some kind of breakdown. Robert, you seem unwell. She was trying to discredit me, to make me seem crazy. It was a smart move. A desperate move. A desperate move. I received a call, I said, from a man named Michael, one of your victims. He's been tracking you. I showed the phone screen to Ethan, the security camera photo, the undeniable proof. I held it up for him to see, the grainy image of Chloe. The truth. Ethan stared at it, then at Chloe. His eyes darted back and forth, comparing the image to the woman standing beside him. The resemblance was uncanny. That kind of looks like you, Chloe. Doubt crept into his voice. So it's the woman's name is Victoria. He was starting to see it. The cracks in the facade. It's not me, Chloe insisted, her voice rising hysterically. It's a mistake. People look alike all the time. She turned to Ethan, grabbing his hands. Ethan, look at me. How can you believe a blurry photo over me? The woman you love? She was fighting for her life, using his love as a shield. And it was working. Ethan wavered. He wanted to believe her. Okay, fine, she whispered suddenly, her voice low and desperate. She changed tactics instantly. A calculated risk. A partial confession. My past isn't perfect. I made mistakes when I was younger. She painted a picture of victimhood. I got involved with the wrong people. They forced me to do things. I had to change my name to escape them. It was a brilliant move. A narrative of redemption. But that's not who I am anymore, she continued, tears streaming down her face again. I love you, Ethan. I changed when I met you. I was trying to protect you from my past. I didn't want them to find me. And Ethan, ever the savior, started to fall for it. His expression softened, his anger replaced by concern. He was buying the lie. Chloe, why didn't you tell me? He whispered, reaching out to touch her cheek. I was scared, she sobbed, leaning into his touch. I was afraid you would leave me if you knew the truth. He pulled her into a hug. I would never leave you. We can work through this. Everyone has a past. He looked at me, his eyes hardening again. You see, Dad, she has a reason. You should be ashamed of yourself for bringing this up. Today of all days. I was losing him again. The lie was too convincing. The desire for happiness too strong. Ethan, she's not just someone with a messy past, I argued. Desperation creeping into my voice. She is a professional con artist. This isn't a mistake. It's a career. She is lying to you. She is manipulating you right now. I was shouting now, trying to break through the fog. Chloe turned to Linda, appealing to her maternal instincts. The ultimate manipulation. Linda, please help me. Manipulation. Linda, please help me, she sobbed. You know how much I love him. You know me. Don't let Robert ruin this. Please. Linda looked at me, her eyes pleading, torn. She wrung her hands, her gaze darting between me and Chloe. The silence stretched thick with uncertainty. Robert, maybe she did change, Linda whispered, her voice trembling. Maybe we shouldn't do this here. After the wedding, the betrayal of my wife siding with her, even slightly, felt like a knife in my gut. I was completely alone in this fight. If this story has your heart racing, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Every click helps us keep uncovering stories that deserve to be heard, because the fight was far from over. There won't be a later, I insisted, my voice rising in frustration. She targeted you, Ethan. She researched you. She planned this whole thing. I thought back to the last few weeks. Chloe had been so eager to help with the finances, pushing for access to his accounts. The joint account, I said, realization dawning. The house. Chloe had convinced Ethan to open a joint account last week, and she finalized the paperwork to put her name on the deed to his starter home, the one I helped him buy with my life savings. It wasn't just love. It was larceny. You were already setting it up, I said, looking at Chloe. You were planning your escape, and that black sedan waiting outside. Is that your getaway car? Chloe flinched. I hit a nerve. Ethan paled slightly, but he quickly defended her. We were just planning for our future, Dad. That's what married couples do. And what car? You're twisting everything. He refused to see it. He was too deep in the lie. Chloe saw she was winning. She stepped closer to Ethan, taking his hands in hers. Her eyes locked on his. Ethan, please. Let's go back out there. Let's get married. We can deal with these lies later. Trust me. Trust us. She was reeling him back in. The spell was working again. Ethan looked at me, his expression cold and distant. The pressure, the manipulation, the desire for this nightmare to end. It was all working in Chloe's favor. He made his choice. She's right, Dad, Ethan said, his voice devoid of emotion. You've crossed a line. This is unforgivable. Then came the ultimatum, the words that shattered my world. Ethan took a deep breath. His eyes were cold, hard, easily. He looked at me like I was a stranger. An enemy. If you don't apologize to Chloe right now and let this wedding continue, I am done with you, Ethan continued. I will cut you out of my life. I mean it. The ultimatum hit me like a physical blow. My own son, threatening to erase me from his life. I faced the terrifying prospect of losing my son forever. My heart shattered, but I knew, deep down, that if I let him marry her, I would lose him anyway, just more slowly, more painfully. I had to stand my ground, even if it meant losing everything. I can't do that, Ethan, I said, my voice heavy with sorrow. I love you too much to let you do this. I accepted the consequences. I chose his safety over our relationship. It was the hardest choice I ever made. The door burst open. A woman I didn't recognize stood there. Her face flushed, dressed in an expensive-looking suit and a large ornate hat. She looked imposing, sophisticated, and very angry. What in the world is going on here? She demanded. Her voice sharp and commanding, echoing in the small room. Chloe gasped, her eyes widening in surprise. Aunt Susan, thank goodness you're here. You made it. Aunt, Chloe had said she had no family. This was the twist I didn't see coming. A new player in the game. And she looked dangerous. The woman, Susan, rushed to Chloe's side, embracing her tightly. My poor baby, what have they done to you? I got here as fast as I could. She turned to me, her eyes blazing with a cold fury that matched Chloe's. How dare you treat my niece this way? Who do you think you are? Sure. Interrupting her wedding day with these accusations. Her defense was aggressive. Too aggressive. She was smooth, polished, a professional liar, just like Chloe. I'm the man who is saving his son from a massive mistake. I replied, crossing my arms, standing my ground, and Chloe told us she had no family, no aunts, no one. I challenged her presence. The lie was unraveling further. Susan didn't miss a beat. Her recovery was flawless. We were estranged for years. A family disagreement. We reconnected recently, thanks to Chloe's efforts. She spun a convincing story. My flight was delayed. I missed the beginning of the ceremony. But I am here now. She smiled, but it was a cold, cruel smile, and I will not stand by while you slander my niece. Something was wrong. Her reaction was too aggressive, too rehearsed. She wasn't just protecting Chloe. She seemed personally invested in the wedding happening. She had the same cold calculation in her eyes that I had seen in Chloe's. They were the same. We need to get this wedding back on track, Susan insisted, smoothing Chloe's dress, adjusting her veil. This little misunderstanding can be sorted out later. This is ridiculous. You are causing unnecessary drama. She was trying to bulldoze us, to force the wedding through before the truth could take hold. Susan turned to Ethan, her voice softening, but her eyes intense, hypnotic. Ethan, darling, you love Chloe, don't you? Don't let these ridiculous accusations ruin your happiness. She was manipulating him, using his emotions against him. Be the man she needs you to be. Stand up for her. Go back out there and marry her. She was forceful, commanding. I recognized the tone of someone used to manipulation, used to getting what they wanted. Ethan visibly wavered under her gaze, nodding slightly, mesmerized. He was falling for it. Again, she's right, Ethan said, pulling away from me, moving towards Chloe and Susan. I'm going to marry her. He was walking back into the trap. I had to do something. Something drastic. Wait, I said, looking at Susan. You're very eager for this wedding to happen. Why? Because you get a cut? I accused her directly, calling her bluff. Susan laughed, a harsh barking sound that didn't reach her eyes. That's absurd. I am her family. I am here to support her. But her denial was too quick, too defensive. No, you're not, I said, pointing at her expensive suit, her designer handbag, the diamonds glittering on her fingers. Chloe said she had no money, that she was working as a waitress when she met Ethan. But you look like you have plenty of money. The inconsistencies were glaring. The pieces clicked together. You're not her aunt. You're her partner. Chloe and Susan exchanged a quick glance. It was fleeting, but it was there, a silent communication between two predators. That glance was all the confirmation I needed, but it wasn't enough for Ethan. He was still paralyzed by doubt and the overwhelming pressure. He couldn't see the truth. Not yet. I was losing him. I was losing everything. I needed something undeniable. Something Chloe couldn't explain away, something physical. I needed a miracle, and I needed it now. I quickly dialed Michael's number again. My hands were shaking. My heart pounded in my chest. He answered immediately. "Did you stop it?" "I'm trying," I whispered desperately. "But she has an accomplice here. They are convincing him I'm crazy." I needed more ammunition. I need something physical, something she can't deny. I'm running out of time. I was racing against the clock. If Ethan walked back to the altar, it was over. My entire life, my son's future, hinged on this phone call. "I've been talking to Detective Miller in Seattle," Michael said quickly. "He worked the case with David." There was a pause on the other end. I heard Michael talking to someone else. "Okay, Robert, there's a scar," he said suddenly. His voice clear and certain. Detective Miller confirmed the detail from David's statement. On her left shoulder, a small, crescent-shaped scar. "It's very distinct." Scar? Physical evidence. Something tangible. How did she get it? I asked. "David caught her trying to flee," Michael explained, his voice filled with bitterness. "He tried to stop her and she fell against broken glass during the struggle." He explained the origin of the scar. "It's in the police report, but it's sealed. She always covers it with makeup or clothing, a specific physical detail. A flaw in her perfection." I looked at Chloe. Her dress was long-sleeved, the lace covering her shoulders completely. It was a long shot, but it was all I had. I had to take the risk. I had to expose her. Literally. "Show us your left shoulder," I demanded, turning back to face her, my voice booming in the small room. The accusation hung in the air, heavy, undeniable. Chloe recoiled, her eyes widening in genuine shock this time. She hadn't expected this. The predator was cornered. "No, this is insane. I will not strip for you." She played the modesty card. "This is humiliating. You are crossing every line, Robert." Her outrage was convincing. But I knew the truth. Susan stepped forward aggressively, putting herself between me and Chloe. "This has gone far enough. Ethan, we are leaving this room right now." She tried to end the confrontation. "This man is clearly unstable." They were trying to escape. The walls were closing in. "If you have nothing to hide, show us," I said, standing my ground, blocking the door. "It's a simple request," I challenged her directly, calling her bluff. One last time. "Ethan, make him stop." Chloe pleaded, turning the hysteria back on, the tears flowing freely again. "Please, baby, don't let him do this to me." She clung to him, her last line of defense. Ethan hesitated. The seed of doubt I had planted was finally taking root. The strange aunt, the desperate plea for physical proof, the specific detail about the scar. It was too much to ignore. He looked at Chloe, his eyes searching her face, looking for the truth he had been denying for the last hour. Chloe, just show them," Ethan said, his voice trembling, pleading. "Please, then we can put this whole thing behind us and get married. Show them he's wrong." He needed her to prove her innocence. He needed this nightmare to end. Chloe looked trapped. She realized she had no choice. If she refused, she lost Ethan. If she showed them, she lost everything. The calculation played out on her face. The desperation, the realization that she had been cornered. The game was over. Slowly, her hands trembling, she reached up and pulled down the lace covering her left shoulder. She turned her back to us, exposing her skin. There it was, a small, pale, crescent-shaped scar, stark against her pale skin. The undeniable proof. The final nail in the coffin. Linda gasped. Her hand flying to her mouth. Ethan stared at it, his face draining of all color. He stumbled back, leaning against the wall for support. The silence in the room was deafening. The truth had finally been revealed, and it was devastating. She had lost. Chloe's facade crumbled, The tears, the trembling, the victimization. It all vanished in an instant. She turned around, her expression cold and hard, her eyes filled with pure venom. The transformation was chilling, the monster finally revealing itself. "You idiot," she hissed. Not at me, but at Ethan. "You gullible, pathetic idiot." She spat the words at him, twisting the knife. We were so close to having everything. The cruelty of her words confirmed the truth in the most brutal way possible. She didn't just want his money, she despised him. Ethan flinched as if she had struck him. His voice was barely a whisper. "Chloe?" He couldn't comprehend the betrayal, the depth of the deception. "It's Victoria," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. She turned to Susan. He ruined everything. The old man ruined it. Susan glared at me, her face a mask of cold fury. "You have no idea what you've done. You will regret this." A threat, a promise of retaliation. "I know exactly what I've done," I said. A strange sense of calm settling over me. I saved my son. I stood tall, unafraid. I had won the war. Victoria suddenly lunged for the door. "We're leaving. Now." Susan moved instantly, blocking my path, trying to give Victoria time to escape. They were desperate, cornered animals. But I was faster. My military training kicked in. I pushed Susan aside, sending her stumbling into a stack of hymnals. I grabbed Victoria before she could open the door. I pinned her against the wall, my grip like iron. "You're not going anywhere," I said. Holding her firmly, she struggled, scratching and clawing like a wild animal, her expensive dress tearing in the struggle. "Let go of me. You can't keep me here. You have no right." She threatened me with legal action.
"I'll sue you for assault."
But I didn't let go. I held on tight, for Ethan, for justice. The door opened again. This time, it wasn't a guest. It was two police officers, their uniforms crisp, their expressions grim. "We received a call about a disturbance," one of the officers said, looking at the bizarre scene. The bride restrained by the father of the groom looking shattered. "Is there a problem here?" Michael had called the police. He had been listening the whole time. Or he had anticipated the outcome. He was the hero we needed. "Yes, officer," I said, my voice steady, never loosening my grip on Victoria. "This woman is Victoria," I explained. "Also known as Chloe Smith, Emma, and several other names. She is wanted for fraud in multiple states." I exposed her crimes, her lies. I pointed at Susan, who was scrambling to her feet, her expensive hat askew. "And this woman is her accomplice." Victoria stopped struggling. She knew it was over, the fight drained out of her, replaced by a cold resignation. The game was finally over. The climax unfolded rapidly. A blur of flashing lights and shouted commands. Amidst the backdrop of wedding decorations, the church, a place of sanctuary and celebration, had become a crime scene. The officers verified Victoria's identity. The warrants were real, extensive. As they handcuffed her, the beautiful white lace dress contrasted sharply with the cold metal cuffs. She looked back at Ethan. There was no remorse in her eyes, no regret, just cold fury at having been caught. She had one last weapon, one last chance to hurt him. "You were so easy, Ethan," she spat at him, delivering the final blow, her voice laced with venom. "So desperate for someone to love you." She twisted the knife. "You deserved this. You deserved everything you got." The cruelty was breathtaking. Ethan didn't respond. He just stood there, paralyzed, watching as the woman he was about to marry was led away in handcuffs. The dream was dead. The nightmare was real. Susan, the accomplice, was also arrested. She remained silent, her face a mask of cold indifference. They were professionals, cold-blooded predators. The black sedan outside sped away as the police arrived. They had a driver. They were organized. The guests were ushered out of the church, their whispers and shocked glances following us. The scandal, the humiliation, hung heavy in the air. The fairy tale wedding had ended in disaster. When the police cars finally drove away, taking Victoria and Susan with them, the silence in the church was overwhelming. Linda was sobbing quietly, her face buried in her hands, realizing how close we had come to disaster, how wrong she had been, how she had almost helped the predator destroy her son. Ethan hadn't moved. He was still standing in the spot where he was supposed to exchange vows, his eyes fixed on the empty doorway where Victoria had disappeared. He looked broken, hollow, as if his soul had been ripped out of him. I walked over to him, my heart aching with a pain so deep it threatened to shatter me. I had saved him, but I had also destroyed his dreams. I had forced him to face the ugliest side of humanity on the day that was supposed to be the most beautiful. I had broken his heart to save his life. I placed a hand on his shoulder. He flinched at my touch, his body stiff, then slowly turned to look at me. His eyes were red-rimmed, filled with shock, betrayal, and profound sorrow. He looked so young, so vulnerable. "Dad," he whispered, his voice cracking. He sounded like a little boy lost in the dark. "I'm here, son," I said, my voice thick with emotion. Pulling him into a hug, he resisted for a moment, his body rigid with grief, then collapsed against me, sobbing uncontrollably, deep, racking sobs that shook his whole body. I held him tightly, rocking him back and forth like I did when he was a child and had a nightmare. Linda joined the embrace, her arms wrapping around both of us, whispering apologies, her tears mixing with ours. We stood there for a long time, the three of us, amidst the wreckage of the wedding day. A broken family, trying to put the pieces back together. The aftermath was brutal. The emotional fallout was devastating. We canceled the reception, sending home truckloads of expensive food and flowers. The financial loss was significant. But it didn't matter. Money could be replaced. Trust, dreams, happiness, those were much harder to recover. Ethan spiraled. He moved back in with Linda and me. He couldn't bear to be alone in the house he had almost shared with Victoria. He barely spoke, barely ate. He spent his days in his room, the curtains drawn, the silence deafening. He was drowning in shame and heartbreak, haunted by Victoria's betrayal, the realization that the love he thought was real was just a cruel illusion. He was angry too, angry at her, angry at himself for being so blind, and sometimes angry at me. "Why did you have to do it like that?" he asked me one night. Weeks later, his voice hollow, his eyes accusing. In front of everyone, the humiliation was unbearable. The wound was still raw, bleeding. "I know, Ethan," I said gently, sitting on the edge of his bed. "I know it was hard, but there was no time. If you had said I do, it would have been too late. The legal mess would have been catastrophic. She would have taken everything." I explained the reasoning, the agonizing choice I had to make. "I know," he whispered, staring at the floor. "The admission painful, but it still hurts. Every time I close my eyes, I see her face. I hear her voice. I remember how much I loved her or who I thought she was. It was a ghost that haunted him, a ghost I helped expose, the memory of a lie. I visited him every day in his room. Sometimes we talked. Mostly we just sat in silence. I listened as he recounted the last 8 months, analyzing every conversation, every interaction, searching for the signs he had missed, the red flags he had ignored. "She was so convincing, Dad," he said, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and horror. "She knew exactly what to say, how to act. She mirrored everything I wanted in a partner." He shook his head, disgusted with himself. How could I be so stupid? How could I not see it? The self-blame was consuming him. "You're not stupid, Ethan," I reminded him gently. Firmly, "You're trusting. You have a good heart." She was a professional. She honed her skills over years of deception. I looked him straight in the eye. I needed him to understand this. "She fooled everyone. There's no shame in falling for it. The shame is hers, not yours." Slowly, the words started to sink in. We started him in therapy. He met with Dr. Lee, a specialist in trauma and betrayal. Dr. Lee helped Ethan understand the tactics Victoria used. "She didn't love you, Ethan," Dr. Lee explained gently during one session I attended with him. She studied you, she became the person you needed. It was a role, nothing more. It was hard for him to hear, but necessary for his healing. Linda struggled with her own guilt. She blamed herself for being so easily charmed, for pushing the relationship forward, for not supporting me when I tried to stop the wedding. She apologized to me countless times, her voice breaking with regret. I wanted the fairy tale so badly, she cried one night. As we lay in bed, the silence of the house heavy around us. I ignored the warning signs. I ignored your instincts. I almost cost us everything. We all did, I said, holding her tightly, feeling the warmth of her body against mine, a reminder of the real love, the real commitment that we shared. But we survived. We survived together. We were a family, broken, but not destroyed. We learned more about Victoria's operation in the following weeks. Michael, the man who called me, had dedicated his life to tracking her down after she ruined him. He had formed a network of victims, sharing information and support. Victoria and Susan had ruined dozens of lives, leaving a trail of emotional and financial devastation in their wake. They were ruthless, calculating, devoid of empathy. They were a team, Susan the mastermind, Victoria the bait, and we were almost their next victims. The legal process was slow and painful. Ethan had to testify against her, seeing her again in the courtroom, dressed in an orange jumpsuit, her face devoid of the charm she once wielded so effectively. It was agonizing for him. She looked cold, indifferent, as if she didn't even recognize him. But he did it. He stood up and told his story, his voice trembling but resolute. He faced the monster, and he won. Victoria was found guilty on all counts, sentenced to a long prison term. Susan also received a significant sentence. The victory felt hollow. Justice had been served, but the damage was done. The scar she left on our family was deep, a permanent reminder of the darkness that exists in the world. It took a long time for Ethan to heal. Slowly, painfully, he began to rebuild his life. He sold the house, the reminder too painful to bear. He continued therapy with Dr. Lee, working through the trauma of the betrayal, the anger, the grief. He started volunteering at a local community center, helping others, finding purpose in his pain. He was starting to look like himself again. The son I knew, the good man. He was clawing his way back to the light. Our relationship, too, needed healing. The ultimatum he had given me in that side room, the moment he had chosen her over me, it had left a deep wound in both of us. But we worked through it. He understood now why I had done what I did. He understood the agonizing choice I had to make. We were finding our way back to each other. One evening, about a year later, we were sitting in my workshop. I was sanding a piece of oak, the smell of sawdust filling the air. A comforting, familiar scent. Ethan was helping me organize my tools, a task he used to do when he was a kid. The silence was comfortable, companionable. The rhythmic sound of the sandpaper against the wood was soothing. "You saved me, Dad," he said quietly, picking up a wrench, the metal cool in his hand. His voice was steady, clear, the pain replaced by a quiet strength. I stopped sanding. Looking at him, he looked older, wiser. The innocence in his eyes replaced by a deeper understand the world. But the kindness was still there, the good heart. "I didn't see it then," he continued, meeting my gaze. "I hated you for it, for a while. I blamed you for the pain. But I see it now. You saved me from a life of misery. You saved me from her." A single tear rolled down his cheek. He didn't wipe it away. He let it fall, a testament to the pain he had endured and the healing he had achieved. "I would do it again in a heartbeat," I said, my voice thick with emotion, my own eyes misting over. "You're my son. Protecting you is my job, even when it means breaking your heart." I looked at him, the pride swelling in my chest. "That's what love is. Real love." He smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes, a smile I hadn't seen in a long time. The wedding day was a distant memory now, a nightmare we had survived together. It had tested our family, pushed us to the brink of collapse, but we had emerged stronger, our bond forged in the crucible of betrayal and deception. I looked at my son, the man he had become, stronger, wiser, more cautious, but still kind, still hopeful. He had survived the predator, he had reclaimed his life. The true meaning of family isn't about perfect weddings or fairy tale romances. It's not about the illusion of happiness. It's about standing together in the face of darkness, protecting each other from the predators that lurk in the shadows. It's about love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond that connects us, even when facing the ugliest truths. I picked up the sandpaper and resumed my work. The sound filling the quiet workshop. Ethan picked up a piece of wood and joined me. We worked side by side, father and son, building something new, something strong, something real. We were okay, we were together, and that was all that mattered. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comments. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot, because your time matters.